Hey folks, welcome back to another live Q&A session with yours truly, Sam Healy. Thanks for joining. We certainly appreciate you guys spending time out of your day with us. So that's very cool. Thank you so much. And we're going to go ahead and get started. A couple of things here. Kind of like maintenance type stuff for later on in the week. I said in my last Memoir 44 game that we were going to do it this week on Thursday as per usual, but there's a slight chance that that won't happen because of all of the other things that we have going on this week. We have a lot of live stuff going up on Friday, and because of that, we have to kind of get everything else ready earlier than we normally would. So we're having to front load the week, and we're already one day down because we spent yesterday recuperating from our trip. Not that the trip was long and arduous or anything like that. It's just that we were traveling at a very early hours of the morning, and that's a little bit more draining than usual, at least for us. So it's a possibility that we're going to be going ahead as usual with the Memoir 44 campaign, but I may have to postpone it until next week. That's why I haven't got it scheduled as of yet. So be on the lookout for that, because it is still very possible that we will be doing it at around 1 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. But it's possible that I'll just have to postpone it until next week. So I apologize for the, I guess, the inefficiency, I guess you could say, of scheduling it, not scheduling it, but there's nothing really we can do about it. I apologize, but just on the front end, that's coming possibly on Thursday, but possibly being postponed until next week. All right, so welcome to the live Q&A. Now, live Q&A is just that. You can ask questions that are pertaining to the discussion that we're already engaged in, which I'm going to introduce in just a few moments, or you can provide input on that overarching idea that we're discussing. And today's idea or thought is, which do you like better? Do you like board game stores or board game cafes better? So that's the overarching, I guess you could say, storyline of our Q&A today, but feel free to depart from that at any point in time and ask me whatever you'd like, and I'll do the best that I can to answer those questions. I do also kind of reserve whether or not I answer your question. So if I answer your question, there you go. If I don't answer it, it's either A, I didn't get it, I didn't get to it, or I skipped it for one reason or another. Do not take it personally, because that's just not a personal thing. It's just I'm moving on. So that's that. All right, so I already said thank you, so I'm not going to say that again. Hello, Amby. Good to see you. Well, see, of course. Rick Thompson, hello, gamers. It's cool. The game guy for anybody in the Orange County, Southern California area, please let us know if there is any. All right, so he's doing some canvassing there right here on our feed. Great sound and video. Thank you, Ross. I appreciate that. Dan Cheston, hello. Do you prefer traditional Dice Town or with the Cowboys expansion? I like both of them. I'll be honest with you, when Tom tried the original expansion to Dice Town before I did, and he said he will never play without it, which I found hard to believe because I enjoyed Dice Town so much. And I like the expansions just fine, but I also like the original expansion, the original base game just fine as is. So I'll play it either or. If I'm in a gateway situation, then I will play just base game and kind of cut down on the rules. But if I'm playing with somebody that's a little more savvy, or at least I'm gaining that they're a little bit more savvy with board games and that type of thing, then I'll go ahead and throw the expansion in there, because it doesn't change a whole lot, but it is fun. So I don't prefer one over the other. I like both of them. Wen Huanglong, I think is not. I think that's how we pronounce that. Wen. Will you review the game Nuts by Bruno Fuduti? I do have it in my queue to play. I'll put it that way. I have it at home. It's not on my shelves here, but I have it at home because I think that might be a game that my whole family will get in on. So, yes, it's coming. I just don't know exactly when. As soon as we can get it played a few times. Can you give me a short opinion on the game? I haven't played it yet, so I don't have an opinion on it as of yet. I know Tom really likes Dinosaur Island. Do you? I haven't played it yet. I really like the theme of it, and the deluxe edition that we were able to pick up also looks very cool. And then Tom, I think, even went further using some of the stuff that he has just in his personal collection and blinged it out a little bit more. So I am interested in trying it. I think it's a great looking game. I think it's a great theme. So I want to try it. We just haven't got around to it yet. Did you play the expansion or Dinosaur Island at the Gathering? No, did not play either of those at the Gathering. I apologize. Have you seen the new Imperial Assault expansion? Are you still excited for new content for that game? I am, just because I'm a Star Wars fan. I'll be honest with you, I haven't got to use a lot of the new content, some of it, but just not a whole lot of it. But I am interested to get my hands on some of that so that we can do some more What's in There videos for that, because I like doing those videos, and I think it's a useful thing that people can use to make a better purchase, to see if that's going to be something they're going to add to their collection. So I do know about it. I think the addition of Thrawn is a really cool thing. He is one of my favorite bad guys from the Star Wars universe. The Thrawn trilogy is amazing, those books. And I was really, that was actually one of the main reasons why I thought that Disney's decision not to use any of the extended universe stuff that was already out there for Star Wars, not to use any of it, although I think they did use some of it, because some of it is really similar. But so yes, to answer your question, I am excited to see it, get it, see how it works, and see what changes it adds to the game. So here it says, please review the new game Blood Red Skies that just hit stores. I did see that. It is an interest to me, but I am in the research stage right now to see how that's going to go. Okay, so let's get back to, for just a few moments, let's get back to, oh man, I forgot to, pull up the Twitch real quick. Hold on, let me do that so that we can have some chatting over there too. I'm typing. I don't type fast, so I apologize. All right, so I'll be checking Twitch and Dice Tower Live comments as well. So I'll go back and forth. All right, so the topic for today: board game stores versus board game cafes. And the reason I thought about that this would be a good discussion is because we just spent some time at Snakes and Lattes in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, over the course of last week. We spent one day there, about 6 hours, maybe 5-6 hours, and I just thought it was a great experience. I was just thinking that if that had been my entry or my introduction to a board gaming hobby, I wonder how I would look at just normal board game stores, because a normal board game store was kind of my introduction back into the wide spectrum view of the hobby, and some of the stores that I've been to were not good stores. Many of the ones that I've been to were great stores, and I know there's one in Dallas that I went to that, I mean, I felt like I was walking around with my jaw on the ground the entire time, because if I remember correctly, Madness Games in Dallas, I think is what it's called. Comics and Games or something like that, is a converted grocery store, if I remember correctly, or a large. It's in a like a strip mall, but it's one of the big buildings in that strip mall. It's not just one of the smaller stores. And that left, that's jaw on the floor. First time I went to Cool Stuff in Orlando. I don't remember which branch it was, but just the idea that they had of having their computers lined up, and you could order stuff right there. Somebody would go to their warehouse, pick it up, and bring it to you. That was amazing to me. And the fact that they had such a good selection in the store. So board game stores, I'm not downing them at all, but I'm just curious as to hear from you guys whether or not you think board game stores or board game cafes, which ones do you like more? I think I like the experience of a board game cafe more than a board game store. And the reason I say that, now it has to be done well, of course, and it's very difficult to do it well. That's why we don't see more of them out there. But Snakes and Lattes seems to have it just locked in what makes, the formulaic whatever that makes a great board game cafe, because they've got every kind of game that you could possibly imagine. Not every game, of course, but every kind of game that you could possibly imagine. And they cater to everyone, not just hardcore board gamers, not just gatewayers, just everyone. And the staff is very polite. They are in on the hobby, but they prioritize their work well so that they don't get caught, just hanging around watching people play games. They are very conscious about the fact that they are servicing, they are baristas, or they are waitresses or waiters, and they are doing that. But as they're doing that, they're also engaged in the gaming hobby, and I just thought that was a great thing to walk into. Board game stores are also really cool because they can kind of focus on just the board game part of it, or just the game aspect of it, and providing spaces to play those games, and providing displays to show off the games on the shelves and that type of thing, and they can be very pointed, I guess you could say. But if you can pull off the Board Game Cafe, man, it's such a fun experience. But anyway, I'll stop blathering. I'll get back to what you guys are doing. Let me check Twitch real quick to see. All right, more text on Twitch says, I would say cafes, in other words, the answer to the question for them is cafes are better for them, as it gives you a place to play and meet up with folks, but not feel bad about taking up room in an FLGS without buying a game. At a cafe, you can buy food and drink to make the table time okay, and that's a cool point, because you're purchasing product from them without necessarily dropping the big bucks on a game that you might not be ready to purchase yet, but you can still support the location, the franchise, by purchasing the food. And you can do that in a board game store as well, but I think the impact, I guess you could say, is a little bit heavier in a cafe. So that's a good point, Mortex. Let's see here. Timon 6219, we'll come back to your question in just a minute. Are you guys still playing Gloomhaven campaign? Okay, so let's go ahead and answer this couple questions. Have you any idea why Simon is so far behind in distributing Rising Sun Kickstarter? They aren't communicating well. I don't. I have no idea. I really have no connection with Simon other than the friends that I have that work there, and that's not something that they talk to me about anyway. So no, I have no idea why they might be having difficulty there. Are you guys still playing the Gloomhaven campaign? If so, do you still find it enjoyable? I still have yet to play Gloomhaven beyond the initial time that I've played it. So I've only played it once. I think Z has only played it once. Tom has played it out the wazoo, and I don't know if he still is or not, but he has been enjoying that one mainly solo, solitaire. So he keeps saying that we're going to get it back to the table, but we are so busy. It is just not a huge priority for us right now, because we are inundated with stuff to review and stuff to play for review and that type of thing. So to answer that question, I would imagine Tom still is. It's his #1 game now, but I don't know. All right, let's see. Back to YouTube here. All right. Am I excited for Zombicide Invaders sci-fi, or was Black Plague and Green Horde fantasy enough for you? Well, I am interested in Invaders. I watched just the video that they have on their Kickstarter page, and it's interesting the things that they have changed. I like some of the stuff. I think Green Horde is a great expansion as well. Black Plague is still the one that's probably nearest and dearest to my heart, but I'm excited for it because I like sci-fi, and if you take a way of playing a game and put that sci-fi feel into it, then I think it'll be really cool, and it's something that I will really enjoy at least. Okay, Matt M on YouTube says, I like stores better. I like to game at home as it's quieter. And that is a factor, isn't it? Because sometimes, especially when you're explaining a game, you want your people you're teaching it to, your students, so to speak, to be able to hear you. And sometimes that's really difficult in a store or in a cafe. Now, when I was at Snakes and Lattes last week, I was actually in a corner, so it wasn't that bad. But I can imagine if we were in the middle of the room and having everybody's conversation kind of flow into where we were, it would have been more difficult to hear. But that is a factor. And again, I guess that's a third thing that I probably should have added into the discussion. Would you rather just invite people over to your home rather than go to a board game store or a board game cafe? That's an interesting thing as well. I know that I'm less inclined to invite people over to my house, just because I know that it would make it more difficult on the rest of my family, because there would be an amount of cleaning, because we live in our house. It is not a museum. It is not a mausoleum. We live in our house. I don't know how you guys are, but so it would take an amount of cleaning. It would take an amount of work to be ready for the event. And then on the other side, it would also take an amount of work to clean up after that event. Not that people would be, messy and all that kind of stuff, leaving trash on the floor. But there's always stuff on either end. So that introduces another thing that meeting at a store or a cafe alleviates. So I think that's an interesting third part of the conversation going on there. Let's see here. What game do you recommend as a great solo experience? I am the wrong person to ask for what a good solo experience game is. I know that there is one of my contributors for Throat Punch Lunch does a segment for TPL called Solo Thrash. Her name is Liz Davidson. She has her own website called beyondsolitaire.net, so you can check out some of her stuff. She will probably give you good introduction, and I believe she has other people working with her. I think I could be wrong with that, but they're kind of a group of solo gamers that are very vocal about playing games solo, and so they would probably have a lot better information than I would. Do I believe in extraterrestrial life? No. It wouldn't surprise me, but no. There you go. Good starter worker placement game for someone new to board games. Starter worker placement game. I would probably say Kingsburg. That's a pretty good worker placement game that is on the lighter end of things. Stone Age is another one that would be a good one, I think. Both of those are really light. They have very familiar mechanics as far as dice rolling and that type of thing. And really, the dice rolling in either is a lot different, but it's a familiar mechanism that people automatically associate with playing games. So there you go. Let's see. What have you heard about Games Workshop getting back into their board games again? I saw the reprint of Talisman. Do you think they will do more board games? I think they will, although I don't have any hard and true evidence that they will, or insider information or anything like that. I think they will, though, because they have already started going that direction. I mean, it's still a miniatures-ish game, but Shadespire is definitely a strong board game. Talisman is the one that's just getting reprinted now. They have another project coming out. I want to say with WizKids, that is Lord of the Rings themed. That has very few, only has like 4 miniatures in it, but it is a proper board game. So I think they're taking it a little bit more seriously. I think they're trying to, they're still strong. They're still staying with their bread and butter and what they know their bread and butter is, but they're taking steps and they're adventuring out into the board game world a lot more, and they're making some pretty good steps as well. I think they will. Have you got any interest in Mythic Games' new Kickstarter, Solomon Kane? No. The fact that it's Mythic Games that provides some interest, but the IP of Solomon Kane, I don't have any interest in that hardly at all. But I'll take a look at it, at least after you've said that. Did you have a chance to check out Football Highlights 2052 at Gathering with Friends? Football Highlights? No, I did not. I wasn't able to check that out. But I did talk to Fabio Del Rio about Fantasy Football, which is their next game in that fantasy sports game, where they did fantasy baseball, and I did a review of that one, and now they're coming out with football, which is the one that I actually enjoyed more. I didn't dislike the baseball one, but I enjoyed this one a little bit more, so I'm interested to get that in for review, so I am looking forward to that. But Football Highlights 2052, no, I didn't check that one out. I'm assuming it's the one. It's coming from Michael, and I've just blanked on his last name. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I was wondering what you think about the new Kickstarter exclusives for Blood Rage. I have the retail version and love it, but wish there was more of an assortment of cards. Hi, Adam. Apologies. I'm not a big fan of Kickstarter exclusives, period. Especially for a game that I really enjoy, and I wish that everybody could get everything that's available for it. Because I think, especially with Blood Rage, to me, Blood Rage is one of those games where you can add everything including the kitchen sink, to the game that's available for it, and it's great. I mean, it's already good. It's already a great game, but this is like, brah. And that's unfortunate, but I dislike Kickstarter exclusives almost as a rule. How much did you like Detective from Portal? We're actually going to be talking about that very soon. We're going to be giving a first impressions video, all three of us, myself, Tom, and Z, here in the next couple of days. So I'll reserve my comments for that video, but I'll just keep your eye out for that. Just ordered Near and Far. What were your thoughts on this game? Near and Far is a great game. Red Raven is an amazing company. The fact that he designs his games, graphic designs his name, artistry is his, all of that together, and it's all from that's just a really cool thing. And Near and Far is one of those games that really has that overarching storyline that I do enjoy. It's not that I don't like more episodic style games, but this one is, if you can provide an experience where you are involved and you're immersed in the story, and you're still getting the points and doing the things and doing the mechanisms and all that. That's a cool experience, and that's what I like about Near and Far, is that it's definitely that way. Heard you'll be live playing Fireball Island this Friday. That is correct, and we are very much looking forward to that. I did get to play it at the gathering, and so we're already kind of savvy on what's going on, but it wasn't a completely done thing. Hopefully this will have a little bit more polish to it, but anyway, it was very fun. Got to play it with Rodney, and he won incredibly well. So, but it was very fun, and he is a sniper with the fireballs. Since you're a Star Wars fan, did you ever play the original Kenner Games Escape the Death Star? No, I didn't. And you know what? At the flea market, at the gathering, I actually saw it on the table, and I thought, maybe I should get that. But I didn't. But that's interesting that you mentioned it here. The only thing is that the problem back to our overarching idea here. Halox30 says, only thing that is a problem in a board game cafe and a store is the noise. In a cafe, it might be more of a problem. I would rather have a board game cafe because of the food. Yes, those are all interesting things, and that noise level problem is there. But again, that's kind of everywhere you go. And I've actually had it worse in a board game store where people are just loud. And I think part of that is because they're not eating food, so their mouths are more empty, I guess, maybe. So they're prone to be louder in a board game store. I have no idea, but it's interesting. Let's see. Have you had a chance to look at the Street Fighter Miniatures game on Kickstarter right now? No, I have not. So I will after this. Hello, Larry. Good to see you. You should come to Omaha and visit us. Okay. Sure. I don't know if we'd ever be able to do that. Usually, I don't do a whole lot of traveling unless it's related for the Dice Tower, so we'd have to see. Brant Sanderson. Our store, The Portal, we've been there, has a miniatures event room, main play Magic tournament area, and board game library playroom. Yeah, they do have. Portal is one of those stores that does it right, I think, as far as board game stores are concerned. They also have, they have, I don't know if they call the other one, maybe Brant, you can say in the comments there, they have another one that's like across the street that is all hobby stuff, like RC planes and trains and all this other kind of stuff, and modeling and all this other kind of thing. And that's a really cool store too. And then they also have all of their board games, their miniatures, and all that stuff as well. So the Portal is great. We really did enjoy going there. The game guy says, I would love to try a board game cafe, but as far as I know, there's none in Orange County. My wife and church would love to try one. I get, maybe that meant children. I don't know. All I know of is our local game stores. I've never lived in Orange County, so I can't tell you anything, but so I apologize for that. Board game cafes are an interesting conglomeration of two very different things, and that's why it's really hard to do it. The people that I've heard talk about this, it's almost unheard of to try and start a board game cafe on your own, because it's such a step away from just a board game store. So I am definitely not saying that anyone out there should try to do this. Not at all. All I'm saying is I'm curious to see what people prefer. And there are not a lot of them around here in the States. But when you go to other countries, it seems like they're rather prolific. I know in Korea we had a whole lot of them. At one point in our stay in Korea, it almost felt like you could... there was one almost every few blocks in certain areas of the city in Seoul. So maybe it's just an American thing. I don't know. But there's just a lot of great stuff out there. And I think it's interesting. Did Snakes and Lattes offer any healthy food? What did you get? Impressed with Mark's weight loss. Yes, Mark is doing amazing. I don't know what you mean by healthy food. A lot of the stuff that was there probably did not have a low caloric count. And honestly, I ordered mac and cheese, so I wouldn't say that was exactly healthy. But at the same time, it was not a huge, massive portion either. It just came in a cereal-sized bowl, and that was about it. I mean, I thought the food is amazing. Whether it's healthy or not, I'll leave that to you guys. Moss 1P says, "Hi Sam, my 7-year-old nephew expressed an interest in miniatures games. Are there any basic, complete miniature board games that you would recommend for young children that aren't too expensive?" Wow. Well, I mean, I don't know what your level of expensive is. I don't know at what point a game becomes too expensive for you. For this person, $30 might be too expensive. For this person, $30 might be just a drop in the hat. So again, I don't know what your level of expensive, non-expensive is, but Shadespire, Warhammer Underworld Shadespire is a how old did you say it was? 7-year-old. No. Yeah, no, that's too Yeah, Shadespire is probably too difficult for a 7-year-old unless you have an exceptional 7-year-old as far as being able to understand rules and that type of thing. Because my 7-year-old probably wouldn't be able to play it with me. He's getting there, but not yet. Wow. That's a hard question. Games Workshop or any other miniatures company, really, they all have their introductory base sets for their games, and I know Games Workshop even has their easy to assemble line that basically gives you one squad of orcs and one squad of marines, and the stuff that you would need to use to play. And I don't think that's too expensive. I think it's around the $25 or $30 range, if I'm remembering correctly. But that's some place you could look. But I mean, really, any company will have something like that. And it's also a good game, too. So, the Warhammer 40K or the Age of Sigmar, which is the fantasy kind of version. So that's that. 7 years old would probably be able to grok the very basic tenets of a game like Warhammer 40K, at least on a single squad level. So let's see here. Brandt says that board game cafes seem better for short term, but stores, I imagine, would be better for larger all-day events. We are open 24 hours this Saturday for Tabletop Day, and that seems better at a store. That's possible as well. Might be more, stores are more conducive for events, whereas cafes are more conducive for, just small meetings of friends and that type of thing. So that's an interesting point. Most board game stores, Halox 30 here in Rotterdam, the Netherlands, have a poor selection. There are some stores that also sell games in addition to their stuff. I would love it if a board game cafe would open here. Okay. Cafes, Mr. Travis Chaos. That's an interesting name. Cafes make the place feel a little more mainstream and are good for walk-in players. This is true. Makes it look like a little more digestible. I personally like stores, but new people can be intimidated. And that is a good point as well, because board game stores do have that intimidation factor working against them almost sometimes. But the board game cafe is more of a restaurant, which again is immediately relatable to the person. And they have that extra thing added onto it. And in addition to that, all of the games on their shelves at a Board Game Cafe, or at least the ones that I've been to, are not all gamer games. They've got those, but they also have, you know, the chutes and ladders and the monopolies and the chess and the checkers and all of that kind of stuff in there as well. So it's more, as Travis said here, more digestible. That's a good point. Sam, where does Snakes and Lattes rank amongst all the Board Game Cafes you've been to? Wow. Well, there's a difference in culture there as well, because Snakes and Lattes, while it is in Canadian, it's a North American culture at the very least. The other ones that I've been to have largely been in Korea. So there's a difference there as far as, you know, what they offer, what kind of games they have in the store, the setting that the game that the store is in. I mean, we've been to Board Game Cafes that were like on the 10th floor of a building, and it was a large wide area, but you had to ride an elevator up it. It wasn't just on the ground floor or what have you. They're definitely one of the best. Both of the locations that I've been to, and again, I don't know the name of the one. The one we just went to was called Midtown. It was a brand new location, and it was an amazing location. They had 1, 2, 3. They had 4 different levels. I would probably say it's only about 3 stories, but they had 4 different levels of areas for seating and gaming. They had kind of 2. They had one on the bottom floor when you walked in. They had their game area where you could purchase games, and they had a modest selection. I wouldn't say it was a large selection at all, but they had a modest selection there. Then they also had, as you paid to be seated or what have you, you would go in, and they had part of their board game library there, and then you went up to the second floor, and they had the other half of their library there. And so I thought it was very well laid out. It was very modern, trendy maybe would be a good word for it, but it just, I mean, it was amazing. The other location, and I don't remember the name of it, had a much more rustic feel to it, and I really liked that as well. There was just a lot of wood, and if I'm remembering correctly, and a lot of earthy tones in the store, and I really enjoyed it too. So they are definitely top 5 in the ones that I've been to. So amazing stores. They're opening one in Arizona. They're franchising it, I think, in Arizona. Hopefully that does well. Let's see here. We've only got about 20 more minutes because we have a lot of stuff that we have to do. So I'm going to have to skip around here a little bit. Let me jump back over to Twitch and see what they have. Let's see here. All right. SB84 says, how does a board game cafe actually work? Do you rent the games to play? Do you rent space to play games in? How about the legal aspect, or do they just earn money by selling food and drinks? I'm sure, and I cannot speak to the legality of a board game store, a board game cafe. There are probably, no matter where you go, permits that will have to be purchased and so forth and so on from the city or from wherever you are, that governs that kind of thing, so that you can sell food and drink, and then what kinds of drinks you can sell and that type of thing. So I cannot speak to any of that. But the general idea here is that you can simply take a game off the shelf and go down and sit and play it. Some of them, I believe Snakes and Lattes does do a cover charge so that you can come in and play it. So I guess you could call that renting the space. But it's usually a cover charge per person. I don't know what it is. But you simply sit down and play your game. A waiter or waitress comes to your table, takes your order, and they bring the food to you right there. You can, usually most of the stuff, it's not like a regular like 3-course meal type restaurant. The stuff is, sandwiches and things that come in bowls and, chips and nachos and that type of stuff. But it's it's really good food. They have done amazing well with snakes. I'm talking about steaks and lattes as far as the food is concerned. Last year when we went, I had this Brussels sprout dish, and you might be thinking, Brussels sprouts? Man, this was awesome. This was amazing. It was like teriyaki Brussels sprouts or something like that. It was something that you wouldn't normally, and I was like, I'm going to try that. But great food. But generally, that's what you do. And you can, and again, I don't know the exact ins and outs of how Snakes and Lattes did it, but you pay basically a cover charge. You eat the food, you play the games, you stay as I believe as long as you want, and then you leave, making sure, of course, you take care of everything, put everything back, and all that kind of stuff. But that's generally how it works. Is near and far appropriate for a 9 and 6-year-old? Maybe the 9, but I think the 6-year-old might be a little too young for it. Okay, Rivet Wars. I imagine that would be, that might be a good one for a basic miniatures type game. Dust 1947 might be a good one. That had a pretty simple rule set to it, and if it's not simple enough, you could always kind of ratchet it down to whatever level you think your 7-year-old could make it. So Dust 1947 would be a good one. Probably Rivet Wars would be another one, although I think Rivet Wars is out of print. And if it isn't out of print, it's still kind of hard to get a hold of. So that's it. Popping back over to YouTube now, because I was at the end of the stuff over there. So it's not that I'm just kind of ignoring you guys. Let's see. Have you backed Fireball Island? No, I haven't, and I rarely back any games on Kickstarter just because I don't have a budget for it. It is not because I don't think the game deserves it, or that, I'm expecting them to send us a review copy, or it is not like that at all. It's just that I don't have a budget for Kickstarter, backing stuff on Kickstarter. I just don't do it as a general rule. Would love to see a mini and Blood Rage carrying a kitchen sink. That would definitely break the thematic involvement there, but yeah, it would be funny. Let's see. Kas. I think I pronounced it correctly. I probably didn't, though. Oh, my goodness. Why would you put me on the spot like that, dude? All right. Nuno says there will be more 44 live play this week. At the beginning of the video, I said that we may or may not have it on Thursday at 1 o'clock. If we don't have it this Thursday, it will be pushed to the following week, and you'll just have to keep an eye on the page to see when that is scheduled. But we have a lot going on right now this week, so we may or may not be able to get to it. Let's see. Oops. Asked my question twice. Thanks for the response. Okay, good. Have you seen the Saber and Blood Kickstarter? No, I haven't. So I don't have any thoughts. As a Star Wars fan, did you ever get the chance to play Star Warriors by Weston Games? No, I did not. And old school chits, I probably wouldn't have liked it anyway. I'm just not a big fan of those chits. My fingers are like meat hooks, and they just don't do well with it. And even with tweezers, because I've used tweezers before. I used to play ASLSK with Joe, actually on like our lunch break at school in Korea. And we would use tweezers and stuff like that, and I was still not very good at tweezers either. So those chits just they aren't conducive to plays. James, do you ever play games solo? Not usually. you have any tips on explaining games? So it'd be better. I want to be a better teacher, but I struggle at stumble sometimes. Well, practice makes perfect, I would say, is probably the rule there. The more you explain games, the better you will become at it. And usually familiarity is the best way to, and what I mean by that is yourself being very familiar with the game. Watch other people and how they explain games, like on video and that type of thing, and that'll give you, I guess, ideas on what you could possibly incorporate, what you would be comfortable incorporating into your explanation, and then go from there. Is that a scorpion on the shelf behind you? I'm going to look. No. There's not a scorpion on the shelf behind me. Now I'm really worried that there's a scorpion somewhere in the room. Thank you for that, Trevor. But no, that's a couple of gorillas and an army dude and a dice tower. Now I'm looking for scorpions, weirdo. All right, so here we go. Do I have a preference between a cafe or a store? Honestly, I think cafes are more conducive to a homey surrounding. Stores just feel more industrial. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but, and again, it depends on the event, depends on the setting that I'm looking for. I love going to board game stores, don't get me wrong. But there's just something to going to a good board game cafe, the comfort, the ease that's there, and usually the furniture and that type of stuff is made, or they are of the materials that, if something does get dropped onto the table, it's not going to leave this mark. I mean, I've dropped stuff on a table at a board game store before, and it has those neoprene covers, a lot of them do, and that just like makes a mark, and it's like, wow. And then you're back in a couple weeks later and you see it again and you're like, oh wow, that was me, I messed up the table, and so there's nothing wrong with board game stores. I enjoy going to those very much. But there's just something to going to a board game cafe, that especially if it's done correctly. And I know that some people can not do it correctly, and just like with anything else. But generally speaking, I probably enjoy cafes more. But that's not to say that I don't enjoy going to a store. I really do. We actually kind of try to make it a point to try to visit as many stores in the areas that we're visiting, if we have the time to, when we go to different conventions and so forth. So that's something that we enjoy doing. The bearded throat punch lunch. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen. Jedi Strike says, I haven't visited a game cafe, although one recently opened here in Nashville, so I need to check that out to experience the difference. I would definitely encourage you to do that. We don't have a whole lot of them here. We do have one called Mac and Chess, and the food is amazing. The location is really small that they're at, but it's also very cozy as well, and they keep it clean. So it's a great location. I just wish it was a bit bigger. But their food is out of this world, man. It's very good. They have a pulled pork sandwich that they actually, do you call it import from one state to another? I think you do. But they actually import the beef, the pork, and oh man, it's so good. And a lot of their dishes are centered around mac and cheese. That's why they call it Mac and Chess. And then the guy's wife makes amazing cheesecakes, so it's really great. Okay, couple down here. What advice would you give to a parent wanting to start an after-school board game club? I've never done that, so there's so many different variables there. What school are you talking? High school, middle school, elementary? I mean, each one of those levels you're going to have different games at. I think that Board Game Blender still has a segment on it about, and I can't remember her name, Tiff. Board Games with Tiff, I want to say. But anyway, she's a teacher, and what she talks about on her segment is doing board games with her students after school hours. So maybe go check out some of those videos. Contact Z. He'd be able to give you better information on that too, as far as getting in touch with this lady that does the segment on Board Game Blender. Let's see here. Are there any paint kits you would recommend? What was the hardest skill for you to pick up? Really, I haven't picked up this at all. I'm having a very difficult time picking it up, and that is proper highlighting. Usually what I have done in the past, and I think I'm probably just going to stay to it, is just dry brushing and have that just be my highlighting tool, so to speak. But I've been trying my hat at actual, doing different shades of highlighting, adding a little bit and then doing another and adding a little bit of lighter color and doing another one. And that's really difficult for me. My hand is not as steady as it used to be. So I don't think I'm going to continue down that road. I just don't think I have the motor skills to do it anymore. But yeah. Kabuki Kid says, if you serve food, I think you always have to have public bathrooms too. Well, that's probably the case. I don't know that I've been to any board game stores that didn't have a bathroom in. I have been to them that didn't take care of the bathrooms very well, but I don't think that I've been to a store that didn't have a public bathroom. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. All right. Other people are chiming in the comments here about Wings of Glory being good for a 7-year-old, and it's a miniatures game. So it didn't used to be a miniatures game. It used to be cards. But they have since, Aries Games, I believe, has made it miniatures, and it's pretty fun. Yeah. Kabuki Kid, you could go ahead and ban Drew the Vlogger. Just banhammer that dude or person, whoever it is. Let's see here. Yes, Board of Education, TIFF. Family Showdown. Thank you, Hunter. Appreciate that. Let's go back over to Twitch for a little bit, just a couple of minutes. All right, Timon6219 said, again, coming back to that individual that asked about a 7-year-old getting interested in miniatures, Mice and Mystics. That has been said in the YouTube comments a lot as well. So that's another one you could try out too. Mice and Mystics is very popular with the kids. So that might not be a bad idea as well. All right, we've got about 5 minutes left before I need to get on out of here. So let's go ahead and do our lightning round. Board Game Renegade. Hi, Sam. Hey, what's up? Jeremiah. He is losing weight. He has lost 21 pounds so far. Good job, man. Thanks for putting that in there. Let's see. I did not get rid of Star Realms. Was there a question about Star Realms? I probably just skipped over it. I apologize for that. I have not gotten rid of Star Realms. I still have it. Hero Realms, I prefer Hero Realms with the character packs over Star Realms, but it does not It has not replaced it, so I apologize for that. Let's see. All right, lightning round. You asked me one thing or the other, peanut butter or jelly, and I have to say one or the other, or I can just say I'm not going to answer that. But we're going to do that for the last 5 minutes. We'll wait for these to start coming on in. Let's see if they're happening over on the Twitch channel. No, not yet. We do have some interaction there on Twitch. Not a whole lot, but that's cool. We're still baby stepping that. Let's see here. Let's see, mild or spicy? That depends on the restaurant's definition of what mild and what spicy means. Like if you go to, for example, we were just there last week, Duff's Hot Wings up in, I guess it's Niagara Falls. Their mild says that it's spicy, and then their medium mild is, that's hot. So it really depends on what the restaurant's definition of mild and spicy are. But I would usually err on the side of caution and just say mild. Snakes and lattes or that cafe in Nottingham. It's called the Dice Cup, and both of them are good. I think the locations are also pretty cool as well. I like both of them just as much. I probably like Snakes and Lattes slightly more, but the guys that run the Dice Cup in Nottingham are great guys as well. So it's neither here nor there. I'll readily go to both whenever I'm in those two cities. So yeah, neither or. Sausage or bacon? Depends. If it's like a burrito, probably sausage, but on a burger, bacon. Taco cafe or coffee? I don't know. I don't even know what that means. The mind or the game? More on that later. We'll be getting to that later on. Moose or squirrel? Oh, sorry. Moose or squirrel? Don't know. You mean like Rocky or Bullwinkle? Is that what you're talking about? I don't know. Ethnos or your favorite Ticket to Ride? Ticket to Ride. Citadel or Vallejo? I like Vallejo's containers better than I do Citadel's. I probably like Citadel paints better. I just wish that they would put them in those little squeeze things that Vallejo comes in. I like that a lot better. Old Testament or New Testament? Both. Best type of cheesecake? Regular cheesecake with strawberry drizzle. Headphones or earbuds? I use earbuds. Daddy or chips? Huh? Don't know what that means. Waffles or pancakes? Waffles. Because they got those little pockets that hold the syrup and doesn't let it fall off the sides. Blue or yellow if green is not available? Blue. Ready Player One or Willy Wonka? Ready Player One. Chicago Cubs or Bears? Both, baby! Metal roof or shingle roof? Metal. Sure. I have a shingle roof at home. I wish I didn't. Have I ever been to Denmark? No, I have not. Korea or California? I probably enjoyed my time in Korea more, but that's not really fair because we only spent a year in California, so it wasn't like we got to really get into everything that was there. We kind of had to move almost a year to the day out because my job there ran out. So I don't really know, but Korea. Thin crust or Chicago deep dish? I have never actually, I do not like thin crust. So by default, Chicago deep dish wins. That does not mean that I think Chicago is the deep dish is the be all end all. I just mean that I don't like thin crust. So you could have almost put anything up against thin crust pizza and it would have won. Rain or shine, either or. Ranch or split level? Oh, these are homes. Okay. I like ranch homes. I like the way they look, the porch out front with the rocking chair, and I like those. Kalbi or bulgogi? Both. Team Cap or Team Iron Man? Team Cap, by far. Exposition about mild and spicy or move on? Let's move on. Birch or pine? I don't know. Jason winning or Z winning? Either one is fine. It's not about winning. It's about having fun. Scorpions or spiders? Neither one. Neither one. Let's see. Parrot or dog? A dog. Bald or beard? Both. Let's see here. Top 10s or live Q&A? I like doing them both for different reasons. Niagara USA side or Canada side? Canada side by leaps and bounds. Now, that's not to necessarily say that the USA side is horrible, but Canadian side of Niagara Falls is light years better. Texas barbecue or California barbecue? Why did you even ask that question? Texas BBQ, baby. The Beatles or the Rolling Stones? I didn't really like either of them, actually. So I know that's anathema, and I probably just made some people faint, but I didn't really like either of those bands. Soft shell or hard shell? Soft shell. Why would you want to cut your gums on a bunch of crunchy tacos, tortillas, when you can just have that soft Goodness. Metallica or Megadeth? Metallica. And that's not an agreement on any thing that they might or might not endorse. It's just that between those two, I liked Metallica better. But my goodness, Dave Mustaine is an amazing guitarist, and he has some amazing licks. So there you go. All right, well, I'm a couple minutes over time now. I'm probably going to get yelled at by those powers that be, but that's all right. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and I think that we'll be doing one of these next week as well. I don't know, maybe not, but just keep an eye on the channel, and hopefully you'll be able to see that being displayed or not. As far as us scheduling it, we're trying to schedule our live events ahead of time now so that you guys can make plans or not to be with us. So that is that. Turkey or duck? Turkey. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. We're going to get on out of here. I appreciate the time that you've spent with me. I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your days, and we'll be getting back to the rest of your Dice Tower content here in just a little bit. See you guys later. Bye-bye.